Hello everyone and welcome to another video. How is everyone doing and how has your weekend been? To be honest, I couldn't find any chance to play, and whenever I do, it's pretty much a loss. It seems that only the worst players play on the weekend, hence even I would like to avoid playing on the weekend. There is no other choice but to risk it and try to climb when we have some free time. And for that, I give you today a new approach on how to gank your lanes. As I found out, during the weekend, the games are so volatile that the one with the most lead will most likely win the game since the enemy team would forfeit. Based on their mentality, they have only like 4 to 5 games, and whenever the enemy or my team feels that the game is over, they will try to forfeit and start a new one. Hence, I have 2 ways to play Volibear in the jungle. Either I perma-farm and get the same levels as my solo laners, or focus on ganking and getting a lot of gold. But I would be behind in experience. In this game, we will go for the latter. I will only focus on fighting, ganking, and dueling the enemy jungler whenever there is a chance. And to our luck, we have a very aggressive bot side. I think whenever you see Senna paired with an aggressive AD carry, the odds are that you should be around their lane at level 2 since they will try to engage and coin flip the early game, either getting 2 kills or giving double kills. And to our luck, we were there at the right time to get the double kill. And I think our Tristana is not the kind of player who is used to being carried. Hence, she will be a problem later on in this game. Senna, on the other hand, is your typical melee form AD carry, the ones that you find in front of you as a frontliner, and that is the scariest thing I see in my life. Whenever you are the front line, and there is someone in front of you like this, I'm not used to it. Regardless, after getting our double kill, I always try to seek and find the enemy jungler. In our case, we have Shyvana, and like all Shyvana players, they are cowards. I've never found a Shyvana player who will stand their ground when fighting. They will only EQ and use their spinning flame to run away. And in our case, it is something that we are familiar with. So far, I have never lost a duel against Shyvana unless I am really behind in gold. Because against this excuse of a dragon, if you build your core items, you should always win the duel. In the mid lane, we are against Vex, and to be honest, I really like my games whenever I have Vel'Koz and Yorick. No matter what happens in the game, my average experience with those champions is above agreeable, because whenever there is a Yorick, I already know exactly how Yorick plays think, so I can play accordingly. And with Vel'Koz, because he has huge range, he can assist me out of the fog of war if shit hits the fan with his beam. But for Tristana and Senna, as you can see, AD carry always send others to die in their place. The enemy team composition is nuke type of formation, their composition is full damage. Our composition is not fully oriented around damage. Hence, if I try to play a frontliner, I will get my face pushed in. So I'll play as a frontliner with the mindset of a mage. Right now, my goal now is to shut down their possible carries. In this case, Vex and Yone, and create situations where Yorick can freely split push. As you can see now, we are winning. We are significantly ahead, but Tristana will start playing aggressively, super aggressively, against their composition, trying to go for kills. Maybe her ego kicked in, and she is not happy with what I said. Meanwhile, we are trying to build a strong foundation for the mid-game. This will lead us into a bottleneck where the enemy team will start benefiting from our miscommunication in the mid-game, because there is no point in playing a game where you will try to ruin other players' experience just because it is not about you. This is the misconception with AD carries. AD carries think that this game is made for them, about them. But the reality is that an AD carry is, by design, the weakest champion in the game. If given the right amount of resources within the correct composition, they can shine. In other words, you can't act like the brain and start insulting the hand and the feet because you are the brain. If you do so, the feet will stop wanting to move forward, and you will be stuck in your location. The only other possible solution you have is to crawl, but since you insulted the hands as well, you will not be able to crawl, and the only solution you have is to move with your butt. And your butt is the support player with you, which is only good for pooping. Hence, you will be like a turd rolling over in the street, waiting for the wind to push you in the most humiliating and disgraceful way. Having the possibility to be the best in the late game doesn't allow you or give you the authority to start dictating to others what to do or how to do it. So, yeah, I was not in any position to tolerate this Tristana or even listen to her, unless she starts to behave in the proper and correct way for all of us to play the game. Let's go back to what I was saying earlier regarding the split push strategy. Now, the issue with this mentality is that I am assuming that Yorick is a good player. In some cases, he is not. Because to split push, you need to wait for your team to be almost in position to create a scenario where either the enemy defends their tower or loses the objective. And if your top laner is always pushing, you need to address this and speak with them and tell them, "Hey man, please wait, you are dying for free." Or something like that. The rest of your team should be with you, not also trying to create split push pressure. So this is the issue with split pushing. This strategy requires communication or at least intermediate macro game knowledge. Regarding our build, I was planning to experiment with a new build designed for sustained fighting. In other words, each item would help you heal and sustain in team fights, in the hope of creating the ultimate form of Volibear. But since this game turned bad as quickly as possible, I decided to save that for another game, where there is not so much going on, and instead go for a different build. For the first item, I went for Sunderer Sky, because I felt that I needed a little bit of sustain against their Shyvana. Shyvana is going for a burst build, and the only way to counter burst is through shields and sustain. The Navori item, on the other hand, will give us the utility netted to chase Shyvana better than the Frozen Gauntlet, because the issue with Frozen Gauntlet is that you will slow her, but she will jump over the wall. You can chase that, but the slow is not enough. So if you stun her, you will get your Q in a faster manner. That will help you keep chasing that champion forward. I also went with the Blue Smite to give me a slight movement speed buff in the bushes. Against Yone and Vayne, it was set in stone that if I don't build Randuin's Omen, I will be bombarded with crit damage. So the idea was to survive the mid-game with the least damage possible, because their composition is starting to recover from their early game loss. Now think with me for a second. Let's assume that I didn't gank at all in the early game, where I focus only on farming. You will have a fed Yone and an effective but useless Vayne. On the other hand, if I gank Tristana and Senna, we will be in a position where we should be taking all the damage from a fed Vex, a fed Shyvana, and a fed Yone. Let me tell you this. There is not a single champion, with the best build, that can survive the burst of these three when they have their core items. Let's say they have only 1.5 items. You will be dead before you press your second spell. So, based on my previous experiences, you should only give your bot side 1 gank per game, preferably the first gank. If they can survive until the mid-game after you gank them once, and of course I mean ganking them successfully, either burning the enemy's summoner spells or getting kills, then it's a successful gank. If not, you can give them a second gank. But once you give them a successful gank by your criteria, you should not be there anymore. They should survive because they are 2 champions in 1 lane. They can do things that solo laners can't do. For example, what will Yorick do if his lane is camped? Nothing. He will watch the enemy farm the lane in the highest available resolution. What will Vel'Koz do if he is camped? Vel'Koz is an immobile champion, and not all Vel'Koz players are like Azap who know how this champion works and can survive without flash. So, my presence is needed, and more valuable in other lanes rather than the bot side. Also, I can win the duel against Shyvana if we are left alone in the fight. So this is your typical situation where we are dealing with a spoiled player who is used to getting the most attention from birth to death, and I think we are the worst kind of people they can meet in their life. To be honest, I don't tolerate that behavior at all. I hate spoiled people. I hate being around them, and whenever I am with them, I end up saying something that will trigger them. So my advice to you, if you are a spoiled player, please get some help. If you know someone spoiled, please deny them any attention, because life is only worse around spoiled people. Now back to our game. The fact that I denied Tristana any attention for 20 minutes straight turned her into an even more uncooperative player. Despite this, Tristana is still pushing, taking towers, and applying pressure, even though she doesn't want to group or help us around objectives and fights. Thankfully, while Tristana is trying to sabotage the game in her own way, we managed to salvage her bad calls into favorable situations where we took most of the drakes. Against Shyvana, this is a huge accomplishment because her champion design heavily relies on securing dragons. Riot's design philosophy of incorporating minigames for each champion is flawed, as evidenced by this game. Champions like Bard get stronger through their minigame mechanics without needing kills, unlike others such as Shyvana, Smolder, and Thresh, who need to be active to benefit from their hidden stats. Here we are still suffering from the mismatched synergy in our team's individual playstyles. I'm still trying to create a split push angle for Yorick, but sadly, our Tristana and Senna are doing their best to lose the game. Whenever Yorick goes bot, Tristana will go top, and Vel'Koz will die because the enemy team has a lot of damage. If you ask me what to do in this situation, The only thing I can tell you for sure is to introduce more randomness into the game. This confuses the enemy team and makes it harder for them to decide on their next move. The only positive thing going for us in this game is that we are, against all odds, denying the enemy team any opportunity to push. The only repetitive scenario so far is that we try multiple split push angles, which delays the enemy enough to stop them from pushing. This has happened so many times now that we started to get used to it, and we all agreed, in our own way, that this is how we will keep playing the game. It is a bit frustrating, to be honest, but it is better than grouping, dying, and getting nothing out of a team deathmatch around the barren pit. Now this is the most awkward situation I've ever encountered in this game. While I might seem useless at first glance, in this situation, you should always position yourself right at the edge of your enemy's range, threatening to engage but not actually engaging. This will give your AD carry the chance to initiate their attack. In our case, we have Tristana, which is beneficial since she has superior range. As a frontline, I don't have any spells left, and luckily for us, the enemy team doesn't know that. Hence, bluffing that I am ready to engage at any moment is as effective as actually doing it if the enemy is denied that information in the first place. Of course, nothing goes according to plan. Otherwise, we would all be challenger at this point. But now that we are almost reaching our pinnacle form, I am confident that dying is something of the past. Now that we have taken multiple inhibitors and one tower at the Nexus, we have reached the stage where one decisive call is enough to end the game. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done at the most opportune time. In this situation, I typed in chat for Yorick to be ready. I told him that whenever he feels he can end it, he should go for it. But still, against their composition, they have the wave clear and a stronger overall composition than ours. The only issue in this game is that the enemy team is more tilted than my own team. It appears that Shyvana took all the kills and all the farm. Since she's playing a kamikaze playstyle, I am sure the enemy team found it hard to follow up with her calls. Even though I am 99.99% sure that Yorick will end the game, I am already moving to my next goal, which is to secure the Baron, just in case. You never know. Well, my dear viewers, our time together has reached an end. It seems that the enemy team lost in terms of perseverance, and Shyvana got one shot by Arsena while she was warding. What an anticlimactic way to end the game. As usual, make sure to leave me a comment, drop a like, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. If there is anything to remember from this game, it is that you should seek enjoyment, and not just victory. Victory is a state of mind, a consequence, and not a result that you get by relying on others. Well, this is it. Take care, everyone, and peace.